Torrey, welcome in, and always good to kind of check in throughout the process. People have seats now, yes. Some people actually have seats. How's this whole thing going so far?
It's going well so far. So we do have people selecting seats, albeit a small amount. I think there was a misconception. I mean, throughout this process, is that like, hey, it seems like my ticket date to select a seat is 2 weeks from now. Well, as long as people understand that the first 2 days is probably like 100 people, so we're muddling through it a little bit. There's a small amount of people that'll have selected so far, but so far so good. We haven't had any complaints, so I'm feeling good about the process.
I think the last time we talked, Torrey, was probably it was late February, early March, something like that. When it was still a lot of information, making sure people knew
Right.
what to do, what the deadlines were, all of that stuff. How did the end of that process go? At least set the line here, get people in order for this part of the process.
You know what? It actually ended really well. I think people took my advice, called in, emailed their ticket rep, got the information that they needed to feel more comfortable about the process. I think that's what it. I mean, with anything that's new, right? You have to really get yourself involved in what the communications are, what you need to do, make sure you don't miss out on any deadlines. And if you do that, you'll feel much more informed, and you can calm your nerves about if you'll miss out on a potential opportunity. And so we did a lot of that. That's what the month of February through May was filled with. Just making sure people felt okay about the process. And now it's go time, like you said earlier. Like we are going. People are selecting seats, so it feels good to get to this point.
All right, so that just started earlier this week. How long is this part of the process, Torrey? For all the people you have in line for football tickets here, how long until all of them know where their seats are going to be this fall?
So the process, like you said, started a little bit earlier, but we will be selecting football seats through the end of. I want to say our last selection date is towards the end of June,
Okay.
and so we won't get through this football selection process for another at least 6 weeks. So it's going to be a long runway. But what this long runway gives us is a ample time for people to make their selections, feel comfortable about the process, ask us any questions that they might have. And we thought that was important. Getting through football, we have basketball coming up, and that process will be similar, but we might tweak a couple of things here and there to help our customers better.
All right, so people, after this process, you got your date and time. We got one of our listeners in the chat who says June 13th at 8:56 a.m. That's a very specific time. So at 8:56 on June 13th, what's going to happen? Is that a phone call? Is that you log in? What happens when you get to your date and assigned time?
So after we've done, the donor rank and everything that we've done on our end, the earnest is then put on the season ticket holder. So we give you your time 8:56. We have some very specific instructions in all of the emails. You click into the system. What will happen is it will populate every open seat in the building. And at that point in time, you'll get the opportunity to select whatever seats may be open in the building. And then there's some tallying at the end. If you pick a seat that, is a little bit less than, the deposit that you put down, you might be getting some money back. If it's a little bit more, you might have to pay a little bit. And so that's the thing. We're allowing people to upgrade, downgrade, look at, the full breadth of the seats that we have out on the market, and make an informed decision.
Obviously, I think the last time we talked, Torrey, and a lot of the questions that I was getting, and that I'm sure that you've gotten over the years, was over these months here, is people concerned about not being able to sit where they were seating and the whole thing. So, all right, so you log in to do this when you get to your day. Is it like auto going to load up like the closest to where you were at, or do you start from scratch and you go find it yourself? How does that work?
So if you go to JMA Dome 2024, you'll get a seating map, and it'll show you the different sections, right? Our Ticketmaster system will do that as well. So you pull up, the seating map, and it can show you specific seats, and it'll also show you what your viewing angle is from those specific seats. To answer your question, does it start from scratch? Well, I think most people know where their sections are. I don't think we populate, and I don't know this specifically, but I don't think we populate, hey, the closest section to your seat was section 103, row 2. This is what we have available. I don't think we do that because, to be honest, you say you want the same seats until you see what's available. And you're like, oh, man, I can go over here? Only that much? That's kind of the feeling that we've gotten so far. I've gotten a lot of questions about, hey, are there better seats available? And we want to capitalize on that. Hey, there are better seats available. You can sit in a different location. And so we don't auto populate, the closest seat to where you used to be. The old dome is gone. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and obviously we know this. The total seat count went down and all that. We know the process is going here with the seats going in. We saw pictures over graduation and during some of the lacrosse games. How was the actual installation of those seats going? From all the pictures, it seems smoothly, but how on track is that right now?
Right now, I mean, I can't say how it's going. I know I've seen the pictures. I've been over to the dome. I actually got an email yesterday that basically said, don't come over to the dome if you don't have a hard hat and you don't have a reason to be here, because we're moving fast, which I love. I love to see that. I love to hear it. But it seems like it's fast and hard, and they're doing an amazing job of getting those seats up. I actually I had an opportunity to talk to Pete Sala while some of the seats were going up before a lacrosse game, before even graduation. And he was saying the crew is working so hard that they sounded like they were getting a section a day in, which is crazy to me because there's so many seats in that building. For them to do an entire section in one day, they're working on overdrive.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be 40-some-odd thousand of them in there when all is said and done here in the next a month or two before the opener coming up 100 days from now against Ohio on August 31st. We got Torrey Ball with us. We're talking the reseating of the dome here. And, obviously, you can still get tickets, right, Torrey? Like, well, say you're somebody that, you were debating on it. You had not put yourself on the list. You didn't do the early deposit. Like, say tomorrow you wake up, you're like, you know what? I do want season tickets. What happens then? And are you at the back of the line? How does that go from here on out if you're just decide tomorrow morning you want to get involved?
So I hit the circuit really, really early on, telling people to get their seats now because, unfortunately, if you want to get a seat right now, you can give your deposit, but you will be, I told you this is a 6-week process. You'll unfortunately be at the end of that 6 weeks. But giving your deposit right now puts you at the front of anybody else who might come in. Because what we found is people, in talking to a couple of our fans, they're like, hey, I want to see the seat before I make a purchasing decision. And I understand that. And I understand, you want to see what you're getting. But if you don't log in, July, whatever that date is, I don't have it up on the top of my mind, but if you don't log in that date, there are people that are going to be snatching up those seats as quick as possible.
Yeah, going to be very interesting to watch it play out here and to see what kind of total it ends up. How have you noticed the overall volume of, influx of new season ticket holders this year, Torrey? Obviously, you get a new head coach, people excited about Fran. What kind of volume have you seen in that market here in the last few months?
So year over year, we're up. Like there's so much success in our ticket sales unit. There's so much success in our fundraising unit. I mean, and it's attributed to our head coaches, their recruiting classes, the excitement around what Fran is doing with recruiting, but also what he's doing in the community. I think people just love that. So we have seen an uptick. I know it's 100 days to football, so football specifically, we've seen a really nice uptick year over year, looking at our season ticket sales. But the same thing can be said for Adrian and Felicia. Felicia is women's basketball is crazy right now. They have more. They've like eclipsed their season ticket number already. Right, not even close to the season yet. But women's basketball is doing some amazing things. But as we stick to football, it's gonna be. I think you will see some sellouts in the dome. That's one thing that really makes me excited. I think with how season tickets are going and the excitement around, Ohio, Georgia Tech, Stanford, maybe not so much Holy Cross. No shade to Holy Cross, but people are excited about this thing, and I'm ready to get the season started.
Yeah, and the big stretch there at home to start the year, right, with the 4 straight in the dome to start the season. We'll certainly test that out right away. I'm intrigued. You mentioned women's hoops there, Torrey. I've been going to those games for 20 years now, and it's always been a struggle, right, to get that attendance up consistently. Like there have been moments, there have been games, but like the consistent base has never really risen more than just incrementally. Have you noticed that taken? You said it, like a bigger jump than usual off of last season's great success by Felicia and that team.
I think so. I think this is the thing about women's basketball. I think the success for Syracuse women's basketball as a whole was amazing. What Felicia has done in 2 years here has been amazing. Deasia Fair, shout out Deasia, Las Vegas Aces doing a really good job in making the team, which is really hard in women's basketball as a rookie. But all of those successes here at Syracuse are the reason that I think it'll trend up. But women's basketball as a whole in our country is growing. And I think with the growth of women's basketball across the country, we're seeing some uptick in our sales. We're seeing some uptick in like people understanding who's good in women's basketball, what games do I need to come to. And I think those kind of things are important for the growth of the sport. Not just the growth of Syracuse's attendance, but the growth of the sport. There's little girls out everywhere that want to play women's basketball now, and the growth of women's basketball, collegiate women's basketball, is imperative to spotlight them.
Yeah, hey, Caitlin Clark will sell tickets even to places she's not playing at. That certainly helps out a little bit too. Before I let you go, Torrey, what's the men's hoops look like? Obviously, I feel like we talk about seeding, and obviously football it shrinks a little bit.
Right.
Men's basketball, just due to the volume and the uniqueness of what the dome is for men's hoops, that feels like it'll be the most drastic kind of change of all the sports. How is that going, and how is that being received as you get further into the men's basketball process?
I think that men's basketball fans are probably right now the most anxious because there is the most potential change in that venue. I think all in all, we'll end in a good place, and people will be okay with where we land from a seeding perspective. But I will say the process with men's basketball is probably the most complex out of all of the ticketing groups that we're working with, especially with adding 44 some odd thousand seats. Like it gets really complicated when you think about putting a basketball venue and a football venue and trying to see the viewing angles and the corners and the edges. So that's the one thing that is probably going to stress me out the most going into July, just making sure everybody has what they need and everybody feels comfortable with their selection. But I think it'll go well just because we have a rock star team here from our ticket sales department. I've been receiving so many thank you emails because our reps are trained to walk them through, and they're doing an amazing job right now. And I think they'll do the same thing with men's basketball. It'll just take a little bit longer and be a little bit more complex.
All right, Torrey. Thanks for hopping on. Always great to chat. Anything else you want to pop out there before we let you go here today?
If your listeners aren't giving to NIL, it's a shame. We're doing some great things in the NIL market. We're doing some great things on basketball and football and women's basketball. So if anybody is listening, Orange United, SU football, NIL, Athletes Who Care, all three great places to spend some of your disposable income to help Syracuse student athletes be great.
All right, Torrey. Thanks as always. I'm sure we'll check it as we get closer. It's a fascinating process to watch all this stuff go down.
Absolutely. Thank you.